Thank you for joining us for today's Dancer Wellness Series session, which is the very first in the 2024 series. And we are very excited to have Yamilet Molina of YM Counseling Services leading us through today's first session focused on mental health and wellness. If you are joining us today for the first time for one of our health and wellness related programs, I hope that you'll come back and join us for the next 3 sessions that we have. We have one each month. We'll have one in October, November, and December, and hope that you'll come back and join us for those. Today's session is being recorded so that we can share it with all the folks who weren't able to join us today at this time. So we do ask that you keep your camera off and keep yourself muted. There will be an opportunity for some Q&A at the end, at which point we'll stop the recording and you can either drop your questions into the chat or you can share them directly with me and I can relay them to Yamilet, or you can unmute yourself and come on camera. It's entirely up to you. Thank you so much, Yamilet, for being here, and I'm going to let you take it from here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right. Well, today's presentation is all about enhancing mental health and wellness for dancers and performers. So today we're going to go over the different areas of wellness and ways that we can improve in each dimension. So before we even get started, just even a little bit about me. I am the owner and therapist of YM Counseling Services. I'm a licensed professional counselor. My interest in working with dancers and athletes and performers stems from my history of being a dancer myself. I was a former D1 athlete. I danced at SFA here in Nacogdoches, Texas. I was on the team for 3 years, and then I was also a member of the repertory dance company at SFA as well. And my interests are, again, working with athletes and performers, people who struggle with body image issues, disordered eating and eating disorders, anxiety, and trauma. So, so before we even just get into it, one of the things that's really important for me is to normalize some common mental health challenges that a lot of dancers and athletes just even face in general. So one of them is body image issues and disordered eating. And a lot of that is due to this certain pressure to maintain a certain weight for your art and for your sport. So at times that can cause a really complicated relationship with food and lead to disordered eating and even an eating disorder. There's also a lot of dancers and artists struggle with perfectionism because, obviously we want to perform our best and be at our best. But when we start to strive for perfection, it can really lead to feelings of inadequacy, burnout, and even anxiety if we're not meeting our own standards. Performance anxiety is also something that's really common. The pressure to perform maybe in front of an audience, your peers, even if you're auditioning for something as well, that can really impact our confidence and can lead to mental health struggles as well. A lot of dancers and athletes even just struggle with work-life balance. So you're dancing, you're working, and you probably have a lot of other commitments as well. And the ability to manage all of those things can be really stressful. Another really common challenge is injury-related struggles. So injuries can often lead us to feeling a lot of feelings of self-doubt, insecurity, and we can really struggle with low periods of depression, especially when we're unable to participate, perform, etc. And lastly, just generalized depression and anxiety. So again, there's so much pressure in order to be able to do your art. And this can lead to issues like depression and anxiety. And of course, we have lives outside of our craft as well, and things that happen, relationship issues, trauma, just so many things going on in our personal life too that can really impact our mental health. But sometimes that gets put to the side because, we have a goal and we have a craft and we want to achieve those goals. So we can it's common to put our mental health to the side. All right. So the purpose for today's presentation is talking about how mental health is just as important as our physical health. So dancers and athletes tend to do a pretty okay job in protecting their physical health, but their mental health and the other areas of their wellness can be put to the side. So we're going to really look at all of those different areas today. So, achieving true wellness involves more than just physical conditioning. It requires a holistic approach that considers all aspects of our well-being. So, today we're going to go ahead and explore the 8 areas of wellness and how they apply specifically to dancers. And we're going to focus on strategies to improve mental health, increase like balance in our lives, and just promote overall well-being inside and outside the studio. So, when we think of wellness, we often think of, like I said earlier, our physical wellness. But wellness is so much more than just our physical being. It's actually so many other areas like our intellectual well-being, our environmental well-being, emotional, financial, social, spiritual, and occupational. And we're going to go into each of these in depth. So one really important thing to note is that we can have really strong areas of wellness in maybe like our financial wellness or our social wellness. But then there are other parts of our wellness that we're not doing super well in, which can be like maybe our occupational, our intellectual, our environmental. So when this happens, this impacts our overall well-being. So we may be struggling with things like anxiety, depression, maybe like feelings of isolations. If like not all of these areas are as well as we need them to be, it's going to impact our overall just mental health. So the goal of this is to really identify like, okay, I have strengths in maybe my emotional wellness, but I'm really noticing I'm struggling in my social wellness. That's maybe an area that I need to focus a little bit more on, and that can improve my overall well-being. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our physical wellness. So physical wellness, I think it's the one that people most think of when they think of wellness. They're like, all right, this is how I care for my body, and I can do this through like physical activity, nutrition, and adequate rest. So it is a very important part of our wellness, especially as dancers, right? So taking care of our body is crucial for our performance. So we have to make sure we're fueling correctly, because if we're under fueling, obviously that's going to impact our energy levels. We need to make sure that we're resting. I know our schedules can be super crazy and rigorous, and it's still really important that we're taking time to rest so our bodies can recover. Uh, Physical wellness also includes like injury prevention and conditioning to make sure that we are just able to maintain the lifestyle that we need in order to continue to be in our craft. So in the studio, some examples of physical wellness can look like making sure we're warming up properly and cooling down after rehearsals to prevent injury, and then also, again, focusing on injury prevention and practicing proper technique throughout all of our movements. Outside the studio, it can look a little bit different. So we might engage in other areas of movement on days that we're off. So that can just be resting as well. But if we want to be active and we want to move our bodies, we can do something a little bit lower impact, something like yoga that could really help us out, swimming, all those things to build strength and flexibility. Again, prioritizing time for rest and recovery, really aiming to 7 to 9 hours of sleep at night. And then again, making sure we're just fueling our bodies in general. All right. So the next area of wellness is our emotional wellness. And emotional wellness just means our ability to effectively cope with stress, handle emotions, and maintain just a general positive outlook on life. So if we're noticing that we're really struggling with things like depression, anxiety, self-esteem, we notice that we're not really doing too good on being able to cope with setbacks. This all falls into our emotional wellness. So a lot of dancers, what's funny is I even remember being in the studio, and it was always like, dance is like our form of self-expression. This is our therapy. We bring all of our emotions into dance, which is true. And we also need more than just dance as our coping, right? Like we need to make sure that we're able to cope outside of it as well. So we really want to be able to learn like the coping skills that we need, have an outlet for our emotions that's not just in one area like dance. So In the studio, we just want to be able to make sure that we're acknowledging our emotional state before performances and channel it into your dance. And then being also able to recognize our emotions after as well. That's super important. Just being able to make that mental note of what it is I'm actually experiencing. And then also connecting with supportive peers. So being able to have like your safe people, your support system who understands the pressures that you're currently experiencing. So that often is probably like other dancers because they understand and have an idea of what you're going through as well. Outside the studio, we want to make sure we're able to reflect our emotions. Things like journaling and being able to have that outlet is super important. We also want to be able to practice self-compassion by allowing ourselves breaks when we feel overwhelmed, and just being able to speak kindly to ourselves in general in the face of setbacks or challenges as well. All right. So the next area of wellness is our intellectual wellness. So this is engaging in creative and mentally stimulating activities that promote continuous learning. So that I think as human beings just naturally like to be challenged and we naturally like to just grow and better ourselves. For dancers, obviously this is going to be important for your art. So ways to be able to do that is even just learning new dance styles, techniques to expand your versatility as a dancer. This might look like even just, taking classes with different instructors, engaging in different forms of art expression, all of those things that are really going to challenge us and just help us grow as individuals. And then even really learning even just the history of dance and anatomy to deepen your understanding of what it is, like the history of dance and how you got to where it is now. And even just being able to understand the anatomy of our human body to understand how our body functions and ways to best support our bodies as well. So outside the studio, this can look like disconnecting from dance a little bit, and we can just really focus on our attention on something else. So we can be reading books, taking classes. And I know a lot of people like to learn different languages, and I think that's a trend right now, and that's a beautiful thing to do. Um, Engage in activities that really challenge our thinking. So we also want to stay curious by learning new hobbies or just picking up non-dance related skills. Again, it's really important to have an outlet that is not tied to dance, just so it's normal to need breaks from the things that you love, right? So just having something that's a little bit different and not related to dance at all can be super helpful and beneficial. And then setting intentional goals for ourselves. So if we have a goal to achieve something, how can we set short-term and long-term goals so we're able to reach that? All right. All right, the next aspect of our wellness is our social wellness. So, this is developing a support system of friends, family, and community connections. So, our social connections are going to impact our well being. So, in the studio, obviously, we're going to want to build supportive relationship with fellow dancers and we can do that in a variety of different ways. We can also, if to also even help the intellectual parts of us, we can also engage in like group choreography to foster teamwork and collaboration. So there's a lot of different areas or a lot of different activities that we can do to really improve that social wellness within the studio. Now, outside the studio, again, like we might want to have something that's a support system that may be separate from dance because again, that's super important. So being able to attend social events or outings with friends to maintain a balanced social life, build a support system outside of dance by staying connected with friends and family and setting healthy boundaries within ourselves. So boundary setting can be like, okay, I've actually had a really rigorous week, so actually might need this weekend to recharge and actually have time for myself to reset. That's okay. And then also any boundaries that we need in our social environments as well with individual people. That's super important. All right. So our spiritual wellness. So a lot of people tend to think that spiritual wellness means like being religious and, following, a set practice. And if religion is important to you, then great. Like that can be spiritual wellness, but it doesn't have to be religion. So really spiritual wellness, what it means is just finding a purpose and a meaning in life. It can be through faith, but it can also be through values or like through personal growth. So for a lot of times for dancers, movement is even a form of spiritual expression. Just really finding a meaning and a purpose for your life is really what the spiritual wellness is going to entail. So again, like dance can be used as a way to express deeper emotions and connect with your inner self. But we can also set an intention before each class or performance to align with our values. So that's again ways that we can do that in the studio. Now, outside of the studio, this can be engaging in meditation or yoga to center your thoughts and reflect on your own journey. So anything that has to do with self-reflection is going to help us get in touch with our spiritual wellness. A lot of people love to spend time in nature or practice gratitude for opportunities both inside and outside of dance. So I know a lot of people who just love to go on walks outside, and this is the perfect season to be able to do that. But a lot of people walk and they don't even like bring their headphones or anything. They're really just trying to center themselves and notice like what's going on around them. And just that is even a form of spiritual wellness as well. And like I said earlier, dedicating any time for self-reflection. So again, this can be through journaling. Um, this can be even through therapy, just allowing yourself to have that time to reflect on your day, reflect on your week. Having some time to process what's even going on in your life is going to really deepen that spiritual wellness for you. All right. Next, we have our environmental wellness. So the environment you train in or the environment you just even live in is going to impact how you perform. So this can be the studio space, home environment, just ensuring these spaces are positive and safe can boost your motivation and well-being. Um, all right. That is not what that is supposed to be on the slide, but it's okay. I know what that they're supposed to be. So in the studio, the way that we can really promote environmental wellness is making sure that we have a space that we just feel is that is clean, that is going to be conductive to our training. We can even bring things into the studio that we feel like is going to help us just even be centered in that environmental wellness. So anything that can help you with like stretching, like what are those called? The like foam rollers, like little like tennis balls um, to kind of help loosen our muscles a little bit. Anything like that we can bring into the studio space to improve that environmental wellness. I know, and a lot of the clients that I even counsel as well, they'll bring in like a journal and they'll have like positive like affirmations that they need to kind of prepare themselves to enter that space. So anything that's going to be conductive for your training is going to be super important. And then outside of the studio, we want to make sure that our physical space that we are living in feels safe for us as well. So we can do this by, well, one, if making sure we have a safe space, right? So that's super important to that tidiness, that cleanliness of our space, like being able to kind of just pick it up and make it nice for ourselves so it can feel a little bit more homey and safe is going to be super important as well. So again, just making our environment feel comforting and safe is really going to impact our overall wellness. All right, so the next area of wellness is our financial wellness. So oftentimes dance comes with financial considerations. You're paying for classes, you're paying probably for costumes, travel, etc. So financial wellness just means managing these expenses responsibly, setting realistic goals, and even just planning for our future. So in the studio, this can look like creating a budget to manage the cost of all of your expenses that you have that are likely dance related. And then setting aside a portion of your earnings, if possible, if you're in the position to do that, for future training, auditions, or travel time for performances. So, how we can really improve our wellness outside of the studio is even just creating a budget to manage our income and expenses, which will include non-dance related costs. And then always exploring opportunities for scholarship, grants, or financial aid to just even support your dance education. There are resources out there. Sometimes they're hard to find. So, being able to do that might be very helpful for us. All right. And the next we have our occupational wellness. So this is involves balancing our dance career, school, job. All of this is really challenging trying to balance all these responsibilities. So, oftentimes what tends to happen is that we get so focused on like our job or we get so focused on our training that our personal time gets neglected and our personal needs gets neglected. We can feel burnt out. You probably hear stories all the time of people burning out at their job. There's likely that's happening because there's not that sense of balance, like, we're putting all of our focus and attention on something, and we're not taking care of our own needs. So, we wanna make sure that our work life supports your well-being, and pursuing a career path that aligns with your passion for dance. This is gonna contribute to your overall satisfaction and success and reduce that, possibility of burnout. So in the studio, we want to set short and long-term goals for your dance career and make sure that we are just kind of staying on track and actively working towards that goal. Um, and then we can also network with industry professionals and attend workshops to further your dance career. Now, outside of the studio, this probably looks like balancing rehearsals and rest. So, time management is going to be very important and ensuring that rehearsal schedules allow for adequate rest and recovery again to avoid burnout and injury, like, and of course this isn't black and white. There are seasons where there might be a period where you're going to be investing a lot more time into like maybe your training or maybe your job, and that happens, right? But it's making sure it doesn't stay consistently like that. It's again finding that balance. So when that stressful time period passes, like allowing ourselves adequate amount of time to rest, to just recover emotionally, physically, all of that's important. And this goes back to pursuing other interests outside of dance as well. So engage in other professional and personal development outside of dance to create a sense of occupational balance and fulfillment. Again, it's important to just have different areas of interest as well. So our minds and our bodies can physically take a break and do something else. And hopefully, those other things that we're engaging and are helping us in recharging. All right. Well, we flew through that. But the 8 areas of wellness, the reason we even went over it, all of this is that they all work together. So kind of how I like to describe this to like when I work with clients is that I kind of think of our bodies and our well-being as like a machine, right? And so there are all these different parts of us that need to be working in an orderly manner. But if there's one part of the machine that isn't really functioning the way that it needs to be, it's going to disrupt the entire system. So again, it's going to be really important to look at each individual area of wellness and look at, okay, like I am doing so good on the physical wellness front, but you know what? My emotional well-being is just not doing good. I'm having a lot of trouble coping here. Okay, then I know that I need to invest a little bit more time in helping that part of my wellness. So after we are able to analyze all of that, we want to set wellness goals. So we want to set achievable goals in each area of wellness, again, both inside and outside the studio. Now, If 8 seems like way too much, it's okay to just pick like 1 or 2, right? Like slow and steady. So you can also do that as well. The next, really important thing is a lot of this can be super overwhelming, and it's okay to not have the answers to figure it out on your own. So connecting with mentors, counselors, peers, whenever you do feel overwhelmed, um, mental health is a journey, not a solo endeavor. I firmly believe that it's really hard to heal in isolation and by yourself. I say it's almost impossible. Like we need community. And then an important reminder, you are more than your performance. So your value extends beyond the studio, and taking care of your whole self is key to thriving in dance and life. So if there are areas of your wellness that are really just floundering, that's going to impact your performance. So it's important to take care of yourself, and overall that will translate. So let me see here. La, la. I want to see if y'all can uh how does this okay. If I Can y'all see my screen? Can you see this personal assessment?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay. So I will go ahead, Molly, I'll probably email this to you. So you can send out to other people, all the other people who may want this. But this is an actual assessment that you can ask yourself and rate in each dimension. So then you can actually find the score of each dimension, and you can see like, oh, okay, like this is where I'm doing great and this is where I'm not doing great, right? So it will ask a little bit more in-depth questions for each individual dimension. So like examples, I can find healthy ways to cope with stress. So you can put never. I barely ever do that. Sometimes I can do that. Actually, most of the time I'm able to handle stress, or like I'm on it. I know how to handle stress perfectly, right? And you're able to go through each of those questions and really ask yourself. It's a self-assessment, and then you'll tally the your score and then write your score here. So the greater the number, the the greater the total number is, the stronger your wellness is in that dimension. So again, you can go through that as well. So I will go ahead and email this to you after, and again, so you can send it out. So this is just a really great tool and resource that I recommend utilizing if you have any questions about that, your wellness. All right. So that's one resource I'll bring out. The next resource that I have, I recommend this app to all my clients. This is such a great app. I love this app. It's called Insight Timer. So it's a free app that allows you to have time of reflection, mindfulness. They have like breath work courses, self-compassion activities. It's free. This is really, really good for even just like developing that insight, developing that self-reflection, that intellectual wellness parts of us. um, this is a super great app. Again, it's free. There's a lot that you can do. I think you can pay for an upgrade. You don't need to. There's so much that you can do on this app that is free. So why not use it? This is going to just be great in helping managing any type of stress, anxiety symptoms. It even has like sleep meditations, which I think is super cool. So that is a great resource that I highly recommend having. And then for those who are in search of a therapist, it can be really daunting and overwhelming to try to find a therapist. So I went ahead and put some directories that you can use to find a therapist if you feel like you're in the need of any mental health support. So your biggest directory that's the most common that most therapists have a profile on is your Psychology Today profile. And this profile is pretty great because you can actually filter it to exactly what you need. So, for example, like If you struggle if you consider yourself an athlete and you're really wanting a sports performance therapist, like, you can filter that and put, like, your presenting problem is, like, sports performance and anxiety, and then it'll filter the list, and it'll bring up therapists that specialize in those areas, and you can go ahead and read their profiles. You can filter it by gender. So if you're looking for female, male, non-binary therapist, you can do that as well. If you're looking for an LGBTQIA affirming therapist, that as well. If you're wanting therapy in a different language, you can filter it. Um, if you're wanting a Hispanic therapist, African American therapist, Indian therapist, like, you can filter all of these things. So Psychology Today is pretty cool in that area, and I think most therapists have that profile. Now, inclusive therapist is another really awesome directory. So this is really centered more for um if you're looking more for a therapist who's a part of a minority community. So if you are a part of the LGBTQIA, if you're a part of the LGBTQIA community, you can find a therapist who specializes in that. If you are specifically looking for a therapist for a specific race, ethnicity, if you're looking for someone speaking a different language, this is a really good one. It's most of the therapists who are on there are diverse in that area. So if you are a part of the minority and you're really wanting to find a therapist that gets you, this is a really great one. This is a really great directory. Again, Psychology Today is most popular, but inclusive therapists can give you a little bit more of that support as well. And the last directory is OpenPath. So OpenPath, this is really awesome, and it can help you find a therapist that may be within your budget. So these are therapists that contract with OpenPath, like, basically agreeing to provide lower cost sessions. So if you're in a state where, like, you don't have insurance, but you really need some support, but you can only afford maybe $50, $60 a session, there are a lot of therapists who are on OpenPath who will take you on through, like, the OpenPath platform. And this is such a great resource that can give you access to mental health as well, because everyone deserves to have a therapist. And then this is my contact information. If you have any questions for me, if you want to know anything, learn more about me, if you want to have any follow-up questions from the presentation that you didn't get to ask, or you're wanting a little bit more information on, I am happy to be a resource and answer your questions or connect you to any resources that you might actually need. And yeah, that's it.